This video is brought to you by Battlezoo Ancestry's Dragons, the book that lets you play as a dragon. Written by Pathfinder veteran Mark Seifter, this book adds over 45 new dragon playable ancestries to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now available at battlezoo.com. Hey everybody, today I have for you a first look at Book of the Dead for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Two quick notes before I get too deep into this. First, I should let you know that I was provided a copy of this book by Paizo, and second, I don't want this video to be confused with a full review. So let me say up front that although I've read through the book, I have not had an opportunity to see all of its contents played out on the game table. And what follows is intended to give you an idea of the book's contents and will not be a presentation of my personal opinions about the book's value, as you might expect from a full review. Book of the Dead is 226 pages from cover to cover and retails for $49.99 US. For reference, this book is about 100 pages longer than most of the Lost Omens books and slightly smaller than the Game Mastery Guide, and the PDF version may be purchased online for $14.99. Book of the Dead is the latest in Paizo's new format of books connected to a particular theme, rather than publishing more general bestiaries that have monsters from dozens of backgrounds all gathered together in one book. In this case, that theme obviously is death and undeath. Book of the Dead is divided into 5 chapters, the first of which is Prayers for the Living. This opening chapter is dedicated to new character options that are largely applicable to existing characters and those who wish to interact with the theme of the undead without being one themselves. Here we find an exploration of the topic of undeath, how the undead are viewed within Golarion, a glimpse into their unnatural biologies, how negative energy works within the narrative of the game, and so on. Following that, we're provided brief overviews of different organizations within the setting that are dedicated to eradicating the undead, such as the Church of Pharasma and the Knights of Lastwall. The book then gets a little bit crunchier by providing 9 new backgrounds that are connected to the theme, such as Grave Robber, Necromancer's Apprentice, and Willing Host. The book then moves on to provide a Slayer's Catalog, tools of the trade to be used in the fight against undeath. This includes gear such as bottled sunlight, but also includes a new precious material called peachwood, which can be used to craft weapons that bypass the typical resistances of undead monsters, and talismans that allow their owners to sense the presence of undead. Mechanically, this means you can't be flat-footed by undead creatures of your level or lower that are hidden, undetected, or flanking. The section on gear wraps up with a page dedicated to folk remedies before transitioning into new archetypes. Book of the Dead provides 4 new archetypes in this section and several more later on. In this chapter, we get the Exorcist, who can capture stray spirits in a spirit dwelling to help them resolve whatever difficulties are keeping them bound to unlife, so they can finally join the River of Souls and find peace. The Hallowed Necromancer archetype is next. These good aligned spellcasters observe positive and negative energies in their purest forms and commit themselves to moral applications of them, rather than using the School of Necromancy to raise armies of skeletons and zombies. The third new archetype here is Soul Warden. Soul Wardens are sort of martial counterparts to Hallowed Necromancers. Whereas most people who hunt undead do so out of fear, vengeance, or a desire to protect the lives of others, Soul Wardens destroy undead so that their souls can continue their journey along the River of Souls. And the last archetype provided here is Undead Slayer. The second chapter of the book is titled Hymns for the Dead and provides more character options, but perhaps from another perspective. Chapter 1 was about living characters and mostly focused on destroying undead or saving their souls. This second chapter focuses on darker connections to necromancy. 3 new feats are provided to enhance a character's ability to control and command undead creatures, and then the book moves into another collection of archetypes. The first is Reanimator, which allows characters to enhance their use of the Animate Dead spell. This section also provides new options for undead allies, undead eidolons for summoners, undead companions that function similar to animal companions, undead familiars like the Thing from the Addams Family or Rudy the Undead Hound from the old Saturday morning cartoons. Supporting these options is another new archetype called Undead Master, which is basically the undead version of Beastmaster. After those new player options, the book dives into the different deities which embrace undeath. Orgothoa is probably already familiar to most players, but here they expand that by providing devotee benefits for clerics of Charon, Cabreri, Orcus, and Zora. Chapter 2 then moves its focus to undead player characters. Advice is given both on how to play an undead character as well as advice for GMs wishing to allow them in their games. Rather than providing entirely new ancestries or versatile heritages for undead characters, most of the options in this chapter fall under new archetypes, as the event that made the character undead likely occurred later in their life. This also is presented as an option for dealing with player death in the game. Maybe their story isn't over at death, and instead that story is just beginning thanks to one of the provided archetypes. Those new archetypes are Ghost, Ghoul, Lich, Mummy, Vampire, and Zombie. Unsurprisingly, each of these archetype options includes specific requirements, such as the Ghoul archetype only being available to characters who died from Ghoul fever, and mummies needing to be mummified after death. Although most of these player options are managed through archetypes, Book of the Dead does provide one new ancestry, Skeletons. 4 heritages are provided for skeleton heroes, 1 for human or human-like skeletons, 1 for small skeletons like gnomes and goblins, 1 for inhuman or monstrous skeletons, and a 4th heritage for sturdy creatures like dwarves and orcs. 4 ancestry feats are provided at first level, followed by 2 more feat options at 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th levels. Chapter 2 closes out by discussing narrative elements helpful for the GM, such as the elements of a good ghost story and 25 new haunts to terrorize players with. Chapter 3 is titled The Grim Crypt, and is basically an undead bestiary. It starts by providing adjustment rules that you can apply to any existing monster to make an undead version of it, similar to how you can apply elite and weak adjustments to monsters. Book of the Dead provides these rules to convert standard monsters into ghosts, ghouls, mummies, shadows, skeletons, vampires, wights, and zombies. However, the book also mentions that these adjustment rules are intended to be quick and dirty solutions, and the GM may need to tinker with the results to get something that fits right for their game. Following that are 100 pages of new undead monsters and supporting lore, such as what you would expect to see in a bestiary, but with a few additional pages of monster background thrown in as well. A few examples are cadaverous rakes, death coaches, ghost pirates, and grave knights. The 4th chapter is titled Lands of the Dead, and it dives deep into the lore of undead in Pathfinder. Detail is provided for the Nation of Geb, the Gravelands, the Zali, Nimrit Noctoria, Ordelia, Osirian, the Path to Valhall, Shinmen, and Ustalov. The 5th and final chapter is an adventure for 3rd level characters titled March of the Dead. I'll avoid spoilers in case potential players are watching, but the adventure is about 20 pages long and divided into 3 distinct parts that could each probably be completed in one session, maybe a little bit longer depending on how your table runs. And that should provide you with a brief overview of all 5 chapters of Book of the Dead, and hopefully gives you a good idea of what you can expect with this book. Book of the Dead is available for pre-order now through Paizo's website and will be released on April 27th. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the book, and as always, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.